In light of a current situation that's going on, revolving around a 13-year-old female and a 20-year-old young man, I think it's important, based off what I'm seeing on social media, that we need to have another one of those tough conversations about life in reality. Now, let me first and foremost start off by saying this. If there's a young man of that age or whatever, and they know that the female that they're dealing with is of a certain age, you have a responsibility to yourself, if no one else, not to get involved in that. Don't go down that road. So you have to be accountable for that. However, what I don't believe in is the narrative or the angle that people come from in saying that a female, whether they're 13, 14, 15, 16, or whatever, there's nothing that they can do to attract a grown man or an older man or a male that's beyond the limits, 2 years. That's not true. If there was nothing that a young girl or a young woman could do to attract a younger male or even an older male, they wouldn't be trying to do it. Now, if you're talking about in terms of like kids, really kids, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, stuff like that, then yeah, I would say, hey, because their thought process, especially in those younger ages, yeah, there's nothing that they can do, because their minds just aren't there. When you start getting into the teenage years, especially when hormones come into play and your body now starts desiring more of something, and especially for those that have either already experimented or they've been exposed to things on television that are suggestive and make you want to think, you're going to want to expand upon that, whether that's for a male or a female, doesn't matter. When you're a young girl, especially nowadays, and you see this culture going around with the music and the entertainment and what they're being exposed to, they want that attention. They want to be beyond a certain age. Now, that doesn't make it right if a older young man or whatever takes the bait. You as a young man have to have the mentality that I don't want to get involved in that. But just because he doesn't want to eat, debate is out there for a reason, because somebody's going to take it. And the thing that I don't like with this thought process is that when you teach these young girls that basically they can be reckless and that no matter what they do, it's the responsibility of a man to make the right decision for them, you are putting them in a dangerous position. So then people would say, well, what if it was your daughter? I have 4 daughters. Let me tell you something. If it was my daughter that was caught dealing with an older man or older boy, she's going to be in trouble. I would deal with him legally, but she's going to be in trouble because I'm not dumb. I know that, okay, there is something that you were doing. You invited this. He didn't kidnap you. He didn't force you to do anything. You invited this. My daughters are smart enough. When you teach them, they understand the logistics of a lot of things and right from wrong. They know if a older man was to come on to them and start hitting on them, they're going to get me and they're going to get adults involved, right? If an older man was to hit on my daughter and she welcomed his advances, or older boy, and she welcomed his advances because she likes him, there are two things in that process. For one, he's out of pocket. But for two, she's out of pocket, because just like he knows that he should not be with a younger girl, she knows that she should not be with an older man. And when you have these girls, it's been happening for a long time, that want to be older than what they are and get involved in things that they shouldn't be involved in. So they present themselves a certain way. The same way that there are men that will look at that and say, hey, young girl, you shouldn't be doing that. Or like, nah, you too young for me. That's the same way it is with girls. If an older man was to hit on a girl, there's nothing that he can say or do to convince her to have sexual relations with him unless she already wanted to. That's just a fact. Either she already wanted to have sex with him, or whatever his negotiation was, she already wanted to make herself available to, let's say, if it's money. There were girls that I was growing up around that there was not a man that could pay them to have sex with them. But that's they have a moral ground. They have a principle. Then there might be some girls, 15, 16, that it doesn't even have to be an older man. There are younger men that are paying them for sex. So at that point, what's the difference between a 17-year-old and a 21-year-old or 24-year-old? But that's because of what you're living and how you're projecting yourself. That this man, he spoke your language, you agree to it. So we can sit there and say that there's nothing that a young girl can do or say to entice a man unless he already wants to do it, which is true. This man has no limit in his mind of thinking it's not okay to deal with these girls. But there is nothing that an older man or older boy can do to entice a younger female to deal with him unless she is already primed or wants to do those kind of things with him or just in general. The same way he doesn't know any better, but he does. She knows better, but she doesn't care. And it's a two-way street, and we have to treat it like that. My daughters would absolutely be in trouble. I would deal with him with the law, like I said, but we got to have a conversation. What are you talking about? How are you presenting yourself? What are you talking about? Why are you trying to have these? It wouldn't do me any good or make me feel better if I'm not going to get extra sleep at night if I say, oh, she's just trying to have sex with the boys her age. No. If my oldest daughter is 14, right? If I found out that she was acting away or talking away to the boys her age, I'm going to say something to her about it because you shouldn't be doing it. So I'm not going to draw a line and say that there are things that you can do to entice this, but there are not things you can do to entice. It's all the same thing. I try to teach my daughters not to put themselves in position to be at the mercy of a man's mindset, for him to make the adult decisions for them. Now we got to look at reality. Here's reality. As far as statute of like what constitutes to statutory or whatnot, that's more of a social thing than a biological thing. It's two things. So from a social lens, because in different areas in different parts of the world, there are different ages where you can legally agree to have sex or different things. So it's not a one thing for everybody. From a biological standpoint, strictly biological, mentally, yes, as a young male or a female, mentally, you know that this is wrong according to the standards in your society. You know this is wrong. Biologically, that's a completely different thing. Biologically, there is nothing wrong or abnormal, I'll say. I won't label it right or wrong. There is nothing abnormal for an older man or woman or an adult, if you will, to be physically attracted to a younger person if that person falls within the realm of what they consider attractive. That's human nature. The same way, because people love to invite animals into stuff, the same way uh, from a dog. You got this 8-year-old dog that you have a 1-year-old female dog, or 1-year-old male dog and an 8-year-old female dog. If you understand dog years, when it's mating season and you're old enough, they mate. So that's a primal nature. But that's the reason why we have this up here. You have the ability to think and say, hey, according to my society or according to how this person looks, that's just not for me. And I can give you, people don't want to acknowledge it, but it's true. Plain and simple. There are some boys and girls that when they hit their teenage years, 15, 16, 17, for all intents and purposes, biologically they are grown. For females, especially biologically, by the time you're 16, you pretty much as developed as you're going to be outside of just getting older. Most females are done between 16 and 17. Biologically, they have uh, hit like their peak. For males, maybe about 18, 17, 18. People can say that they know, but in society, what we do is when we know the facts of something, we can look back and say, oh, it's obvious. But it's not always so obvious on the front end. I can show you pictures of myself at different ages within 17 to 22. and you wouldn't be able to tell one from another. You wouldn't be able to, oh, well, it's obvious he was this because I looked young for a long time. My wife was 30, 31, 32 at the time. And there were guys and women that thought that she was 18, 19, 17 because she's small in stature and she looks very young. Right. So it's a mentality because there were guys that would come up to her and they would say, oh, they were thinking she was 19. And then when she would tell them she was 32, they would get disappointed and ride off. Now, you would think that this man will be pleased to know, this older man will be pleased to know that she's not 19. In fact, she's a full grown woman. She's 32. So for him, it's a mental thing. Mentally, he has a problem. He wants to go after younger women. It's not even about biology. He wants to go after younger women. He's a predator. You understand? Physically, a man or a woman can see someone that is very attractive and then find out that that person, and they might look older, but then you find out they 16, 17, 18. You say, oh no, you too young. No different than, I'm 41. If I met a female and she had looked nice and she was 20, 23, and I don't want to date 23, I say, oh no, you too young for me. Until we can recognize that and have honest conversations in society about the differences between biology and mentality, then people are going to keep bickering and trying to mislabel things. This is one thing that I understand. When you are 19, technically you're an adult at the age of 18 here. You can't even buy alcohol till you're 21. Most places won't let you rent until you're 25. So 18 technically makes you an adult, but there's a consciousness about society that understands that you still mentally have a lot of growing to do. You don't really hit your peak mentally until about 25. When you are, let's say, 19, 20, you are considered an adult. At the age of 20, you have been considered an adult since you were 18. That means in 20 years, you have spent 18 of them as an adolescent. That means at that point in time in your life, you have spent more time as a child than a legal adult. So it is not too far fetched for you to still think and behave in ways like a child, for you to still be immature in a lot of ways. It takes you until the age of 36 until legally you have spent an equal amount of time underage and of age. 36 years old. So when you're a female or a male and you're 20, 21, you have spent 18 years of those 21 years as an adolescent. You have more experience and more habits from being young and underage than you do being older. So it doesn't shock me sometimes when young men and young women over the age of 18, but below certain ages, still have a childlike mentality or they don't fully understand the gravity or the weight of certain situations. And when I'm saying that, I'm not speaking about the situation that I referenced in the beginning. In that situation, I do believe that even as a 20-year-old male, if you are understanding that this person is of a certain age, that, okay, I shouldn't do that. Now, you 20, you might meet a female that's technically underage, but she's 17. Legally, that could be statutory. 3 years, that could be statutory. Legally, it could be. Same way with a female. She's 20. She met a young man that was 17. Legally, that's statutory. But mentally, are they really that far apart between 20 and 17? 20 years old, you've only been technically an adult for 2 years. These are the things that we have to talk about. You look at like football players, basketball players, these young men, man, they come out of elementary school with beards. Now they're going to high school 6'3", 200 pounds in full grown beards. A lot of people, once they know, they will look back and say, oh, it's obvious they're a baby. I said, I'll tell you what, if you think I'm lying, people don't want to hear what I'm saying. If you think I'm lying, because this is very tough. If I were to put photos in front of you of nothing but bodies, right? From the neck to the knees of men between certain ages, between let's say 16 and 30, and women between 16 and 30. You probably would have a hard time determining who is what age. You understand? If you in public and you see someone and physically they are very attractive, and you look at their face, you can tell, okay, they're a little young, but they might look older than what they really are. So you talk to them, and if they're honest with you, they tell you their age. Say, oh, I can't deal with you. I remember one time when I was 25, I met a female at a club, and the club's 21 or older. So when I got her number and started talking to her, there was nothing in me that needed or felt like I needed to ask exactly how old she was. I assumed she was 21 because she's in a 21 and older club. Well, it turns out she was 19. And when I found that out, I'm like, I can't talk to a 19-year-old. But how did I meet her? At the 21 and older club. And what made me ask her eventually when we were talking, she said she was in school. I assumed college because she's in the 21 and older club. So when she said she was in school, I assumed college. Until we get to talking, I'm asking her, like, what do you major in? And well, I assumed that she was in college. I take that back. I assumed college, that she was closer to graduation. Is what I meant to say. I assumed that she was closer to graduation. So we're talking. I say, okay, I know you must be happy that you almost finished with college. And then she says, almost finished. No, I just started. Man, I'm, huh? I said, oh, so you went to college late? And she says, no, I went right after high school. That's when I said, how old are you? Oh, I just turned 19. Now I'm thinking, who let you in this club and why? She's not underage, so I would not get in trouble for that. But I know situations where there have been young girls that were underage and have been led in clubs or led in environments around men, and they do consider age. And I'm not going to sit here and act like I did not know females growing up that looked and were built older than what they were. I knew that in high school. I went to high school with girls that we were like, man, she built like a grown woman. She built like she 20. She built like she 21. What happens when that young girl takes that knowledge, or the young boys, because they're boys, like I said, that physically, biologically look older and are more developed than the average adolescent? What happens when they are armed with that knowledge that they can get away with looking older? They're going to try to want to be around older crowds. Point blank, period. They're going to want to try to be around older crowds, or, see if they can get an older woman or older man. And if they can sell their age, that is not always as cut and dry and obvious as you think. If they're honest about their age, and I'm gonna keep reiterating this because you have a lot of people that when they listen to stuff like this, they try to dissect it and make it to where you're saying something that you're not saying. I'm talking about reality. I'm talking about facts. I'm talking about simple biology. As a man, as a woman, biologically, it is not unnatural for you to be physically attracted to someone that is younger than you by a certain degree. It is not unnatural for a 25-year-old woman to be attracted to a 16-year-old teenage boy. Depending on how he looks and how he's developed, I can understand why she would be physically attracted to him, but mentally, she should not be attracted to him. Mentally, she should understand that they are in different leagues. Mentally, she should say, hey, even though biologically, I understand that like this can completely happen. Um, Psychologically, mentally, this cannot happen. So you have to override your natural desires for something that looks good. That's what I'm saying. And there are too many women out there that allow young girls, especially, to exhibit behaviors and do things that they know that those girls are trying to get attention. I remember when I was younger, two of my sis, two of my sisters, right? They were going to do cheerleading. My older sisters didn't want to do cheerleading, so my younger sister did cheerleading. When my older sister went to cheerleading practice with my younger sister and saw all the boys that was out there that play football, and she saw the uniforms that the girls was wearing at cheer, she went back to my mom and said that she wanted to cheer. My mom said no. My mom said no because at that point she understood that she wanted to chill for the wrong reason. She understood that she wanted attention. She wouldn't let my sisters dress a certain way going out the house. My mom didn't concern herself, my mom or my dad. Let me make that clear. Both my parents lived with me. I don't want to discredit my dad. My parents made sure that my sisters did not go outside presenting themselves a certain way. They did not concern themselves so much with um a grown man shouldn't be looking at you like that anyway, because they understand human nature. Just like with young girls, when you come in the room, a grown man should not be looking at a young girl. But at the same time, when my daughters are in the room, whether it's all men or all females, because all females ain't straight, hey, sit with your legs closed. Hey, don't bend over like that. Hey, go put some clothes on. Hey, why are you walking around the house in that? We have to go back to teaching our kids what's inappropriate. And a lot of times our kids don't know what's inappropriate because we try to put the responsibility on everybody else to contain themselves. It's like, yeah, you need to contain yourself. Don't make me jump on you. But at the same time, my daughter's not going to conduct herself a certain way around boys or men. She's going to carry herself like a lady. She's going to understand that from her age and even older, first of all, at a certain age, you don't need to be having sex, period. So I don't want you trying to entice anybody to have sex with you. You're not finna post anything on social media because I understand that makes you look a certain way. Because I understand that the same bait that you putting out there to attract younger men is going to attract older men or older boys, just like with a boy. If I had a son and he was 17, 16, you're not finna be on the internet a certain way. You're not going to promote yourself a certain way. That's just period. But especially for the girls, you cannot let your daughter promote herself a certain way on social media or in life and then expect for everybody that she comes across that she's throwing herself at to turn her down. It should not be the responsibility of every boy or man that she comes across that she is trying to offer herself to. It should not be their responsibility alone to make sure that nothing happens between them. Because here's a fact of life: every man and every boy and every woman does not have that type of thought process. So it's up to you to not put yourself in them situations. It's up to you to say, I'm a young man, I'm a young woman. I don't need to be having sex right now. I definitely don't need to be trying to entertain older people. Older people can only entertain you if you want to be entertained by older people. The same way that you can only entertain older people if older people want to be entertained by you. It is a cycle. Action, reaction, reaction, action. They feed one another. So the same way you can say that there's a predator out there looking for a young girl, unfortunately, there are young girls out there looking for predatory men. So you got to teach these young girls. You got to get to them. You got to say, hey, time out, time out, time out. But until we can have those conversations and understand how biology works and how mentality works and why certain things happen the way they do, we're going to keep going in this cycle and we're going to keep seeing a lot of the same things happening because we're trying to have one-sided conversations and we're trying to put all the weight of responsibility on one particular party. That's not how it goes. That's not how life goes. Like I said, from a biological standpoint, it is normal, it is natural for a person of a certain age to be attracted to a person that's 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, you 60, they 20. It's mental. It's mental. We have to stop acting like biology does not exist. We have to stop acting like biology does not exist. How do I know? Because a lot of those girls that are sleeping with young men or young men that are sleeping with older women, they're also sleeping with one another. And my thought process is none of y'all should be having sex. None of you should be behaving away. It's natural for anybody with hormones past a certain age, like attraction is going to happen. It's going to happen. We can be honest about it. Your family is honest about it. Your mom, especially when I was growing up, mothers recognized when their daughters were built a certain way. because mothers were not blind. They understood when their daughters were um at a point to where they will probably be appealing in the eyes of men and young men. They reckon you think that if this girl is 14 and she wears a double D, that her double D is any different than her mom's? If she's 5'6" at the age of 14, she's 5'6" and she weighs 165 pounds, and she is the same build as her mom, who's 35 or 40. You really think that there's a difference? Just like with a young man, if he's 6'5", he's 16 years old. He's 6'5", 220 pounds. And he's built like a man that's 30 and 6'5" and 220 pounds. Biologically, and from the eye, it's not much of a difference. So we got to get up here, up here, up here. It's one of those things that is such a sensitive subject that a lot of people don't want to touch it. And I understand. I really do understand that a lot of people don't want to touch it. But we cannot progress or do ourselves any favor if we keep having conversations and topics that we don't want to touch because we don't want to be realistic about it. And anybody that says I'm lying, I say, I tell you what, sit in front of me. I get a bunch of pictures. You tell me who's what age, who's underage and above age based off the photo. Sometimes it's obvious, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's not. I know women out there that were 25 looking 16. And I know girls out there that were 16 looking 25, and boys too. I was just a very young looking guy for a long time. My dad too. There are some women that will not talk to a man that is 30 because he not only looks, but he's built like a 12-year-old boy or a 13-year-old boy. But they will see a 14 or 15-year-old boy and be physically attracted to him because he's built like a grown man. Think I'm lying? Okay. So if a man, let's say if he's 30 and he dates a woman that's 28, and that woman that's 28 looks and is built like she's 13 or 14, would you think that he's a pervert? Obviously, he's attracted to a woman that's built like an adolescent child. Let's be honest, all women are not built like you know. There are some women that even into their 30s still built like, you know, prepubescent teens. It's just a fact. But if he was to go after her, would you then look at him? Would you assume that he likes underage kids? Because the woman that he's with looks and is built like an underdeveloped kid? Or this woman, the man that she's with, is built like an underdeveloped teenage boy? Would you just say, oh, you must like kids because if you're attracted to him, would your brain say, if you're attracted to this man that's built like this, you must be attracted to teenagers? If you're attracted to this woman that's built like this, you must be attracted to teenagers. It's a mental thing. It's a mental thing. That's what it is. Mentally, they are attracted to that body type. So technically, you could say that if they saw someone else that was a lot younger of that same body type, they would be attracted to them. But it's the mental factor of knowing you're not that age. We are on the same path. We are close up here. So yes, I can talk to you. We got to stop pretending like those lines don't get blurred in a lot of different ways.
The truth does not require you to like nor accept it. It can be tough and uncomfortable, existing on its own merit, independent of your feelings and residing outside the frameworks of your mind. For some, the truth is freedom, and to others, confinement.